So, hello, my name is Franziska Larisch, and I am a research assistant at Fraunhofer ISE in Freiburg, Germany. And after Max, my colleague, has given you a general introduction to the topic of agri-photovoltaics, I will now talk about social acceptance in this context. So, sorry, just a second. So why is the topic of social acceptance actually so relevant? Innovative ideas and technologies are only promising and implementable if they find broad social acceptance. And in any other field than renewable energies, does this hurdle seem more present? So in Germany as well as worldwide, we have an increased expansion of renewables, and they enjoy broad general approval in all sections of the population. And still, the expansion of renewable energy supply stalls when it comes to find suitable sites for their construction. And the reason for this discrepancy between a general social acceptance and a social or local skepticism are manifold, and some of them will be part of my talk now. Why it is not possible without social acceptance is shown by two main challenges. So first, to increase the integration of CO2 neutral and renewable energy technologies, we need a willingness to invest on the part of companies, homeowners, but also private people. And secondly, it is a question of the spatial transformation of rural and also partly natural areas in order to build up an efficient energy transition structure. And in particular, wind energy and grids are technologies for which land is needed and which contribute to a visual change of the landscape. So social acceptance of these changes is essential for a sustainable and substantial change in the energy system and for climate protection, of course. And the transformation requires technology, of course, but also needs to be supported by the people. And if this is not given, we will eventually fail. So, but first now, let's take a step back and focus on the question, what do we mean when we talk about social acceptance? So, Zöllner, Rau and Schweizer Ries, the researchers here for this model place acceptance in a two-dimensional matrix. The evaluative dimension represents the valence of acceptance from positive to negative. The second dimension is behavioral activity. Acceptance can accordingly be classified as rejection or consent as passive behavior, or participation or resistance as active behavior. And active behavior could be the participation in a demonstration, signing a protest letter, or also investments in renewable energy technologies, and so on. The most desirable form for us as researchers, but also for politicians, would be active acceptance, so that people have a positive attitude and take supportive action in whatever form. Now, the factors that influence acceptance, as I said, are manifold. And and in their study on those factors, Hübner et al. Identified 5 main aspects. Those aspects are economic impact, attitudes toward the energy transition, trust in actors, burden on nature and people, and social norms. And at the individual psychological level, motives, norms, and emotions are considered as activators for action and attitudes, which differ individually from actor to actor, of course. So basically, they are shaped and influenced by our social environment. And in social projects, such as the energy transition, we are in a complex network of different actors. And so acceptance is a question of interaction, of course. The mechanisms of action are present in all actors involved, but are weighted differently depending on the role of the stakeholder in the interaction. So social instruments such as the process, flow, laws, or regulations are essential, and they guide the action. And this figure just symbolizes that we have a lot of different stakeholders, and that they are really in this network, as I have explained, and that they are also dependent on each other. So in the end, this makes clear that there cannot be a predictable outcome that can be calculated from the initial situation. In the framework of my bachelor thesis, that is part of the project APV Obstbau that Max has already introduced to you. I have performed a social compatibility study on the project here. And since the public perception on APV is currently not accessible, an opinion survey of social representatives of public function served to investigate a possible gap between general acceptance and local skepticism towards the technology. Guided by the research question, what factors influence an acceptance or a rejection of the APV research facility and APV in general, and what differences exist regarding the acceptance issue between the various stakeholder groups, I have performed a semi-standardized guided interview. Because to analyze acceptance factors, answers are to be given freely and according to the subject's own value standards. And such a semi-standardized guided interview gives the possibility to have like general questions, but also very specific questions, and at the same time to be still flexible and to adjust the interview to the answers the participants will give. So in general, the interview was divided into 4 segments. And the first segment was a personal introduction, which served to get to know each other and to get a sensitive introduction to the topic. Then a section on APV in general followed, and this was followed by questions specifically about the research project APV Obstbau. In the last part, then, questions were asked regarding the future prospects of APV. For example, how do you assess the future of APV in Germany and worldwide? In terms of content, the interview questions were based on the previously described acceptance study by Hübner et al. Thus, the topic areas of the guideline study were economic and technological aspects of APV, attitudes towards renewables and APV in particular, effects on people and nature, information channels and inclusion in planning processes, and a change of perspective and opinion of others. 17 local people participated, and they represented 7 different stakeholders, namely the administration, the local administration, energy sectors, environmentalists, farmers, agricultural associations, politicians, and also scientists. In order to understand the results of my study, I will shortly introduce you to the theoretical framework, which is based on the jobs to be done theory. The most important aspect here is that there are so-called forces of progress. 2 forces called push and pull, forces that increase the acceptance of APV. So by those factors, the stakeholder is encouraged to accept APV. And there are 2 other forces called anxiety and habit forces that decrease the acceptance or increase the rejection, so to say. In my study, I then identified factors that were mentioned by the interviewees and assigned these factors to the 4 forces. And just to shortly really describe the 4 forces again so that they are really understood, push forces include all factors that describe a current state that is perceived as critical, problematic, or negative. This condition is unacceptable to the individual, so alternatives in innovations, in this case APV, are sought. These push factors include crop losses due to extreme weather events related to climate change, or also land use competition between the energy industry and agriculture. Then the pull forces are so-called gains, because they are defined as those factors that describe the positive effects and the benefits of APV, resulting in a subjectively or objectively perceived improvement in the baseline condition. The anxiety forces, on the other hand, are mainly expressed in people's uncertainty about APV due to the lack of knowledge about the technology and its possibilities and impacts. And this is also shown, or this shows that there is still a great need for research in this field. Habit forces are also inhibiting forces, as fears are. So innovations question and break established patterns of thought and behavior. But this requires energy and also, above all, the willingness to do so. And if there is a lack of adequate and good communication and knowledge transfer regarding the meaning and the advantage of an innovation, people tend to remain in old patterns. So these are the 4 forces in general. And now I will present the main results, the main cross-stakeholder results of my research. So it became obvious that some factors were mentioned more than others in my interviews. The main push factor, for instance, is the current landscape with films and hail protection nets. So the thing is, here in Germany, due to climate change, farmers already use these hail protection nets or films to protect their crops against hail. And many interviewees told me that, well, of course they are already used to this picture in the landscape, because it is done like for years now. It has been done for years now, but still aesthetically it's not very attractive. And if they have the choice whether hail protection nets or APV, well, they would prefer APV. So this is like a push factor, because it pushes towards APV, because APV is considered as more attractive. Main pull factors were good communication strategies, science and research. And this was very interesting for us, because it became obvious that scientific projects seem to evoke more trust in the population. Then another important point is economic gain. And this is, in this project, in my research project especially, concerned with economic gains, first and foremost, for the farmer, so that the farmer uses the generated electricity for his own business and has an advantage due to this. Other factors are positive environmental impacts, of course, then APV as a promising future technology, and one of the most important aspects, the dual land use, because we have the problem that land is a scarce resource, especially here in Germany, and we need it for food production, but also for energy production. So as a consequence, the dual use of land seems to be a good solution. On the other hand, we have the anxiety factors and habit factors. One of the main anxiety factors were the economic feasibility and financing. Economic feasibility means that reconciling an APV system with modern labor management in agriculture is seen as a major challenge. Modern agriculture is geared towards efficiency. An APV system must not cost additional costs, but must be economically viable, like feasible for the farmer. So this is still a critical point, because here we need more research, and we have to really present to the different stakeholders, but especially to the farmers, that it might have a positive influence in the end. One of the main habit factors are the current legislation. So here in Germany, under current legislation and land use plan, dual use of land is not possible and is not part of the German Renewable Energy Source Act, at least not yet. So this raises a lot of questions concerning energy law and also tax law issues. And the planning certainty for project developers and also for farmers is too little at the moment, and we have a lot of administrative obstacles, but this is in change. And also we here at Fraunhofer, we are in contact with politicians, and we try to improve the situation, of course. Yes, so these are the main results of my research. And to sum all of the results up again, so in general, we see a very positive attitude towards APV technology in this local project that we have with APV Obstbau, and also a very positive attitude towards its future and the project itself. Then there's a great interest in research results of the project, which is quite convincing for us that it is a good research project and it contributes to the establishment of this technology. We also see that there is a need for specifically tailored communication concepts via different media, but also, and this is really important, an early involvement of the various stakeholders, especially the local population. And the main factors, as I have introduced to you, that influence the acceptance of APV in this specific project now are the economic aspects, especially the integration into modern agricultural labor management, then the current legislation. Regionality and cultural landscape are also very important aspects. So especially the change of the landscape. It's when people are asked what they fear most, it's actually that their home and that that the landscape they are used to is changed, because they identify with it. It's where they feel home and good. And so this in this regard, it's really important to communicate to them the positive aspects of APV. Then for farmers, in addition to the other aspects, crop conservation function of the APV technology is very important, so that they have something to fight against climate change somehow, or to secure their crops against heavy rain or hail. And for environmentalists, the positive and negative environmental effects are very important. And we already see these influencing factors in Hübner's acceptance model that you can see on the right side down. But it has another connotation, because Hübner is more concerned with regional, local value creation and participation in it. Here in my research project, it is clearly more about the agricultural business and the extent to which APV can be integrated. The landscape aspect, as I said, also plays an important role here, as well as in Hübner's model. So with these 2 points, it fits what we see with renewable energies in general. Regarding APV, economic efficiency and the additional protective function are to be emphasized, which is considered a major advantage of this specific technology. Yes, so this is my presentation so far, and now we can go over to the questions you have. And maybe just a short notice. So here at the end, you also have the references. And for now, I already thank you for your attention. And it was a pleasure for me to have this talk for you. At the very beginning, it is important to consider at an early stage how the local stakeholders, and especially the population, are to be assessed. So only on the basis of this assessment can specific communication concepts be developed. And these concepts can include very different methods. So it's really hard to say what you should do, because you also have different projects. And there is no one-size-fits-all solution, no easy solution. There are different ways of approaching it, and you have to choose from different options depending on the needs of the target group. So early proactive communication is important, and the population must be able to give such a project a positive meaning. So they must recognize the advantages, and they somehow also must identify with it, so that they have a benefit from it, and not so that they are not excluded from the benefits. And so usually you should check in advance, or researchers check in advance, or politicians or whoever, the social context with the different actors. So first of all, maybe identify the different stakeholders you have, and then also evaluate if there is a high or low uncertainty from their point of view, because you have to put yourself into their perspective. And as I said earlier, people, the local population, identify with their landscape, with their place where they live. And as soon as the government gives some land away to an installer or to a project developer, and especially when this person is unknown to the people, so they don't know who is this person, can we trust this person, it's already like, oh, we are not involved, there's something happening, we don't have control of it, it's next to our home, and already at this point anxiety starts to develop. And I mean, we have the same problem in Germany, and we now try to change this, that people are involved from the very beginning. So when there is an area that can be used for renewables, maybe give information session for the people before the project already starts. So tell them, well, we have this area here, it's free, we have to use it somehow, and we have the problem of climate change. So maybe we need to use it for renewables. Do you think that's good? What are your fears about it? Could you imagine to support a project that an installer comes here and works with you and puts renewables in place? So I think this is very important, like a really early involvement of the population. And that they just really experience this process as fair and that they are involved. And another strategy is also that financial participation or cooperatives are possible options through which to offer solutions to increase acceptance in the population, so that they are really, financially also, that they can financially participate. And there are also other methods to increase the attractiveness of such a project. For instance, like the tourist offer integrated into the APV facility, like the cultivation of herbs beneath it, or like putting information boards in place, giving guided tours, and so to give people an additional benefit. And it is also crucial that the actors, as I said, enjoy trust. And so, as I gave you the example of the farmer in my research project.